I'll say I'm excited about this one.
Why?
I'm surprised you agreed to do it.
Why? Because it's so like
Rigid.
Rigid and nebulous and difficult to define, and
Yeah.
I think because it's so difficult, I was just like, I'm basically gonna ignore like going over all of the research for every single factor.
Yeah.
And just go by what I already know and kind of.
I assumed as much because I think each of these could be an episode at least.
At least. And then the subcategories in each.
Yeah.
This isn't a very scientific episode. You had just given me a list of different factors that are related to longevity.
Yes.
And said rank them.
Yes. Basically, I gathered as much as I could remember things that are at least touted as effectors of longevity, regardless of whether or not they're true. And I just wanted you to basically tell me which of these make the biggest difference and which of these less so or not at all.
And I kind of put them into different categories.
Okay.
Because some of them, it was just easier to put it in a broader category.
Sure.
And rank the larger categories. And then within the categories, maybe we can rank them as well.
Okay.
Can I first make my usual caveats?
No. Suffer in silence.
But it hurts. It hurts to do this sort of thing without saying that.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So whatever rankings I give, and we can talk through it together, but whatever rankings we come up with, I want to just state that it's really difficult to rank any of these things because we don't have like the ideal studies, like long-term randomized controlled trials with large groups, comparing all of these different factors and how much they increase longevity and health. And from at the same time, a lot of these factors are highly interdependent and have a lot of correlations with each other. Meaning that like one factor, if you are really good at one factor, it'll correlate to another factor. Like, especially like for me, for example, like if I sleep better, that leads to me having a better mental state and eating better and being able to, do more exercise, things like that.
Yeah.
And also, I think in all of these, we're kind of ignoring the absolute extremes of the factors.
Yeah.
Like obviously genetics, if you get a really rare disease and you have horrible luck, that's the most impactful factor
obviously
out of all of them, of course. But let's just look at like the factor, but without the extreme ends of it.
For most people, like paying attention to this general thing is gonna have probably this and that effect compared to this other general thing.
Right. And I also want to mention that each factor has like a benefit curve.
Yeah.
In that if you go from like a low point, for example, like in physical activity, if you go from absolutely no activity to even just light activity, like that'll get you a whole lot of benefit in longevity and health.
Right.
But if you go from a lot of activity to a little bit more active, it's not going to give you the same like rate of return there. And
are you saying that the benefit curve of these is different?
Yeah. For each one, it's different, definitely.
I think it could be cool to discuss the benefit curve.
I've got some nice visualizations that I've prepared.
I don't know what you have prepared, so
yeah,
let's see.
You'll see. Okay, so yeah, I kind of hacked together this factor ranking tool. It's just a web app, and basically it just allows you to like move the factors around and put them in order, and also then you can assign like a score to each one.
Okay.
Kind of relative to the others, because just because one factor is higher than the other, it doesn't mean it's the same amount difference from a different factor being above another factor.
Okay.
Let's see. These are all of the categories that I've got. It's 11 different categories. Trying to capture the broader categories that you had given me. Do you want to just go ahead and start with? I have a clear one that I think is the top.
Okay.
What do you think? What do you think it is?
I think your top is physical activity.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to move that to the top.
And I'm guessing you gave it a 10.
Well, all of these, we have to add up to 100. So I think let's first rank them, and then we'll decide what the value is. So I definitely, physical activity is top for me. And from what I know from the studies that I've read, generally, it always is like physical activity or diet, and I think it leans towards physical activity being the top factor.
I had sent 3 different types of physical activity.
So I think you had said strength training, cardio, and aerobic activity, which to me is pretty much the same.
Okay.
And you had daily walks. I know daily walks could be under, I guess, mental health, but I don't know. I just put it there.
I think it's more so physical activity. I know it has mental health benefits, but it's still something physical that you're doing.
Yeah.
The more direct.
There's the interdependence there and the correlations. So for these 3, I actually would put cardio and aerobic activity slightly edging out strength training.
Okay.
I just think that there's a lot of cardiovascular exercises that could incorporate what you want out of strength training as well. Like you could say a more high intensity interval training would, take a lot of the same things from strength training that would come from just strength training.
Obviously, ideally, you'd do both.
Ideally, I think you would do both. Yeah. And daily walks is kind of just, lower level activity is very good for you. I mean, I guess I would put it a bit less than those 2 because it's much lower in the intensity. But I don't know. It's difficult to rank these 3 separately. But if you force me to, that's what I'll choose.
No, that's fair enough. Also, when I said daily walks, I was thinking if somebody's not doing that, it means they're completely sedentary, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Like they maybe drive to work and then sit down and then drive home and sit down.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I had thought, well, there are many people who just all their activity is they just go to a gym and lift weights, and that's it, which is much better than nothing,
Of course.
for sure. But if they also added in daily walks, I think they'd get a lot out of that. So I don't know. Any activity is better. So what do you think would be next? I'd already mentioned.
Yeah, I think your obviously diet is going to be your second one.
Yeah. Okay. And in the diet thing, you had a few. Look, I added carnivore. So let's get carnivore out of the way. So that's the lowest.
You'd put it lower than vegetarianism?
Yes. Yes, I don't think there's any evidence that carnivore leads to a longer life.
Okay.
I haven't seen any actual long-term studies, even observational, only some, the more influencer type theoretical mechanisms, blah, blah, blah. But I just don't think there's enough people doing actual carnivore diet for a long period of time who would go, in a study to actually make.
Well, that's
really
my first
term.
surprise of the day.
Really?
I mean, I knew you wouldn't rank it high. I just thought it would be above vegetarianism.
No, there's actually quite a few studies that support the idea that vegetarianism is healthier on average compared to like an average diet.
Right.
In terms of longevity and health.
Right. But I think that's because the average diet is quite unhealthy.
Yeah, no doubt. The studies aren't perfect. There's a lot of correlation problems. Like people who are generally already healthy tend to be more vegetarian, and people who are vegetarian, especially in developed countries, tend to be higher income earners and more educated, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Those kinds of things.
Okay. You can
But
see
still,
how it gets very messy very fast.
Yeah, it does, it does get messy. So do you want me to just order them how I would? Or how about you do it first and then I'll change?
Okay, so but move the I'm gonna do my take, not what I think you will do. Although I'm not sure if they're very different. I think calorie restriction. I'm between calorie restriction and reduced processed foods. Let's go with calorie restriction.
On top?
Yeah. Then reduced processed foods.
All right.
Then high consumption of fruits and vegetables. Then intermittent fasting. Then vegetarianism. How close am I?
Pretty close.
Is it
definitely pretty close?
The top two letters?
No, I'd actually lower calorie restriction. I think like these two are calorie restriction and intermittent fasting. They seem to have similar effects, and it's not totally clear if the intermittent fasting benefits are just due to actually calorie restriction.
Okay.
But I think for both of them, I don't want to put them as like the top two, because I think I wouldn't want to live chronically calorie restricted. it's just a very difficult way to live, and long term, I don't think it's healthy, even though it appears to generate lots of health benefits.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of problems with it as well, like reduced muscle mass and just generally feeling not so good because you're starving like all the time.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe if we're purely focused on longevity and don't care about quality of life, maybe then it should be the top one or two.
Okay.
But if there's any quality of life in there, yeah, I wouldn't put it up at the top.
But you're not saying these are necessarily bad for longevity.
Purely longevity, no.
Okay, where would you say vegetarianism or carnivore diet is bad for longevity?
Or carnivore diet, I think we just don't know.
Okay.
And if I had to guess, I would say it's probably worse than a diet that focused on reducing processed foods and eating lots of vegetables.
Okay.
Yeah, for most people, definitely, I would say that.
And you just moved vegetarianism?
Yeah, I would put it above the intermittent fasting calorie restriction. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
But I would like the reduced processed foods and the high consumption of fruits and vegetables. Those are difficult to say which one is better for longevity and health. To me, it all like depends on degree, and they're so correlated with each other. Like,
yeah,
if you have high consumption of fruits and vegetables, you
probably aren't eating very processed food. But I guess I'm imagining somebody eating like very good quality meat versus like this microwave.
Right. Yeah.
So fruits and vegetables comes out on top.
I think so.
Okay.
But I don't know. Those two are kind of really close, and I don't know. I'm not sure.
Fair enough. I think that's in the nature of this exercise.
Yeah. We're not going to be totally precise. Let's see. So
what do I think is next?
Next one, yeah.
I just saw that you have genetics on there.
I do have genetics. I know you can't modify genetics, but
I would have guessed that to be higher than even diet, maybe.
Genetics.
Yeah.
I think that was the idea years ago, but from what I have come to understand, the more recent literature puts a much lower emphasis on genetics if you don't talk about the like highly rare diseases.
I guess that's also what's kind of throwing me off is like if
you imagine some disease where the person dies at 10 years old and it's genetic.
Okay. Outside of that, then I will say that I would actually keep social connections up there.
Maybe you'd keep that there. Huh.
Maybe tobacco use. Let's go with tobacco use.
Okay, that's what I was thinking as well. Yeah, tobacco use. Because it's just so clear.
Yeah.
There's so much evidence behind that.
Actually, now that I think about it, if we were like talking about the subcategories, I would put that behind maybe even above processed foods. Like I'd rather be eating microwave dinner than smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I agree.
Does that mean we're changing the ranking?
I mean, I'm not against it.
But what's your...
I mean, who's smoking anymore?
like
but
20% of
that's
people
why.
or something?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's reasonable, definitely.
Still behind physical activity, though.
I would, I still would. I mean, obviously, if you're smoking like 10 packs a day.
Yes. Yes.
But like if it's, I don't know.
I think we're taking all those
extremes and Well, let's just leave it like this for now. Yeah. But I'm fine with
I've seen you eat processed foods. I've never seen you smoke, so.
That's true, because I haven't. So now we're on the fourth one after nutrition.
Gonna go for social connections.
Social connections.
Isn't there like a very high correlation in countries where people maintain their family and live a more social?
Yeah, that's definitely a factor, especially as you get older. Definitely is. I wouldn't say it's wrong. I also think about sleep being there, but
in the fourth place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if your sleep was horrible, but your social connections were good, I don't know, like with that. Or if your sleep was good and you had bad social connections, I don't know which is worse.
Oof, yeah. Well, if we're gonna avoid the extremes, then I think I'd take sleep. Like decent sleep and subpar social connections versus the other way around.
Yeah, I did. That's what I was thinking as well.
Okay. Are there subcategories for sleep?
No, they're not, because I didn't want to talk about like sleep quality versus like sleep total duration versus like but within social connections you did have, I mean, these are all similar. I don't know which is better. I think I would say quality relationships of these three is probably the best. The top one, and then I don't know, these maybe aren't so. It could be whatever.
No, I agree.
I think we can move on.
I'm actually surprised we haven't put alcohol use yet, because I'm pretty sure that's next.
Yeah, I also think that should be next, and I think there's an argument for it being higher.
Yeah.
But also, if you're just drinking alcohol when you go out and talk to friends and you have a generally good diet, it doesn't seem to have that much of a negative effect up to a point. I would maybe leave it where it is.
Okay.
But I'm also open to
I'm not sure
raising
now.
It.
But we did say we're avoiding the extreme cases. So we're not talking about somebody who has a serious alcohol issue.
Yeah, because then it would obviously be very high. Yeah.
So basically, we're talking about somebody who drinks casually a couple of beers on the weekends versus somebody who doesn't at all.
Yeah, and there I really don't think it has much of a effect.
Sure.
And it might help the social connections. There's always that argument.
In that case,
I'm not saying it's good for you. The more recent research kind of indicates that at any point, it's probably not good for you at any level, but it probably, up to a point, it doesn't do that much. Like,
Okay.
so after alcohol, I think I think I know what I would put next.
I'm thinking you're gonna go for healthcare.
Probably, but I was also considering mental health.
I might put mental health above healthcare, but wait, I'm thinking extreme cases again.
Yeah.
No, then I'd stick with healthcare.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree. So then we want mental health after that? Yeah. So for mental health, I think this is difficult to rank or say for sure. I think I would put sense of purpose or meaning at the top. But I could see the argument for emotional resilience also at the top. So I'll just put it after that. Stress management, probably next. But meditation or mindfulness could be part of stress management. Also therapy, part of stress management. So I think I'd put it here, but
yeah,
I'm really not sure of the literature comparing any of these things. So This is just me guessing.
This also feels like a very the lines between these feel a lot more blurry than the other stuff we said. Some of the other stuff we said.
I agree. So we just can leave that, I think. I think all we want to conclude with in mental health is that you should have good mental health.
Unlike everything else we said.
Yeah, right. Supplements, environment, or genetics?
Okay, I'm gonna go environment, genetics, supplements.
Yeah, I will probably go with that as well.
Did we have anything under environment?
I mean, safe drinking water, I think would have to be the top there. This one is I think you had mentioned that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure because that since it's I don't want to think about the extremes. I would put that lower, I guess.
Okay.
Because like I guess you're spending a lot of time indoors usually.
Most people,
your sleeping is indoors. I would want your air quality indoors better. But it's both, they're both related highly.
I think so. I think these could be combined.
All right. Genetics, we don't have any. All right. So now we have supplements. I do agree that supplements are the last one, generally. But you had a big list of supplements.
I did have a big list.
I think I will just go quickly through these because there's a lot. And, I should have put Fatty 15 on here. Okay. So let me quickly put things on the bottom because I think that's easier.
Let me guess what's gonna. I knew it.
I mean, that's a drug, so I'm not sure if I'd even keep it in there. Okay, I'm not unhappy with this ranking.
Okay, let's see. Omega-3 being the best. I think I'd agree. Vitamin D, yeah. If you recall, in you can only take 3 supplements for the rest of your life. These were both in my 3. You'd put green tea extract that high up?
I think that there's actually a lot of research that green tea could reduce some cancers and helps with blood sugar. So yeah, I would.
Is this specific to green tea?
Up there. You mean comparing green tea to black tea?
Yeah, for instance.
Or I think both have similar effects, but I think green tea is better generally.
Okay. Because I've never looked into this. Is it like one of those things that if you take a supplement, there's way more of it than if you just drink tea, or are you fine with just drinking tea?
I think that tea is also good too.
Right.
There's enough in like if you have a cup or two of green tea.
So it's not like,
that's fine.
Do you know what I'm getting at? Like resveratrol, for instance, is found in grapes, but it's like a micro amount of
the red wine.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know how that ever became a thing.
Right. What was it that red wine is actually good for your...
The red wine contains resveratrol, therefore you should drink more red wine.
Right.
But like nobody bothered to, well, at the time, nobody bothered to question like, wait, how much resveratrol is actually in a cup of red wine? There's like almost nothing relative to the supplements. Like you'd need like bottles of red wine, which obviously is not a good thing.
Okay, while we're on resveratrol, you put it quite low. Wasn't there a lot of movement some years ago that it extends?
Yes, there still is, but I think the literature says now that it doesn't do anything, and that research was incorrect.
Okay.
And based on some lab mistakes and some
I didn't know it was lab mistakes.
Yeah. Like I forget the details, but like they used the wrong kind of assay for the cells, and when they did the same experiment later, they couldn't replicate the results.
And this was mainly in rats, wasn't it?
Mice, I think.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay. So metformin is actually the drug for diabetics, I think.
Yeah, it's commonly prescribed to diabetics to help with blood sugar management.
And it seems to have some effect on...
There was thought that it could help increase longevity, but I think the latest research on healthy people indicates that it probably doesn't. But if you're diabetic, definitely it could help. Yeah. So that's why I still have it kind of higher up there. But
I am surprised at how highly you rated, first of all, CoQ10.
Yeah, maybe I'd put there. Here, there you go.
Why did I say anything?
I don't know. I don't really... These are all very difficult to...
But...
It's basically like I have a few that I'm pretty sure have at least maybe a small benefit. And then I have a few that definitely, I would say, we have no idea or have no benefit.
Okay, let's do that. And instead of going like one by one, because that we could do on its own episode.
Yeah.
So let's just, where's the cutoff for definite benefit to...
Okay. I'm going to start with the definite...
Useless.
We have no idea or no benefit. And I would say these.
Oh.
Probiotics is really unclear. I think we're really not sure long term.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of issues with like, do they actually change your gut biome, or, is it any long-term change or just like an acute change. And I don't know. There might be something there, but I think it's unclear.
Okay.
And then we kind of get into this group, which is like they're probably beneficial, but long term, like for longevity, unclear. They might support things that lead to better health. Like you need B12, you need vitamin C, but like once you aren't deficient in them,
right?
I'm not sure if like dosing higher helps.
Okay.
There might be evidence that like in certain disease states, high dose vitamin C might help, but I think it's unclear. And collagen, like, yeah, it probably helps your joints.
I just noticed we're missing something on there.
What?
Zinc.
Oh, zinc. Again, like as long as you have not a deficiency. And that's the thing with at least most vitamins and minerals. Like once you get to a point where you're not deficient.
Then how come vitamin D is ranked so high?
Vitamin D actually is technically a hormone, and there's just a lot of evidence that many people are deficient, and higher vitamin D levels is good. But yes, there's the same thing where we don't know how high is optimal. But yeah, it is difficult to say.
And I guess the reason I mentioned CoQ10 being, I'm surprised it's so high, because you have recently, I've noticed you've become more skeptical of antioxidants, and
I guess we'll have to make an episode on that.
Sure.
I mean, yeah. I don't know.
Okay, we can save it for...
Maybe it should be there. Like, I don't know.
You keep dropping it every time I say something about it.
Yeah. But I think all that is to say is that, like, it's really unclear when we're, like, ranking them. Like, it's really highly individual. And
yeah, okay. Are we gonna fill in so that they add to 100?
Yeah.
How many do we have?
We have 11.
Okay. I think we should start from the top, because I'm not sure what's gonna be...
Yeah, that's probably easier to start there.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would say, like, the first two, I would give, like, 20 each.
Should we give a bit more to physical, though, since...
Maybe a bit less to tobacco use? Because I'm not sure what's going to be left at the bottom. Like,
all right, well, 18?
Yeah.
Okay. Then...
16. 12, 14, I don't know.
13?
Sure. And I think, like, the next few can just be 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could start reducing. By how much are we over now?
Right now, 37.
Oh, you have... Okay, let's go 3 for supplements.
3, okay.
And then we basically need to...
4?
Let's go with 4.
Okay. 5?
No, I would keep them at 4, I think.
Environment 4?
Yeah, but we're way over.
Probably still, yeah. Yeah, we need to get 19.
Reduce everything by 1.
All right. I'm going to reduce this by 2.
Sure.
These reduce as well?
Yeah.
All right, where are we?
Where are we at?
Oh, two more.
Maybe nutrition can be 1 lower. And then physical activity could be one lower.
Interesting. Okay.
Because they're still quite way above.
All right. Yeah, I had actually had physical activity like 25.
Oh.
So I had just kind of had the top 3 like 5 points higher, and then went much lower on the later ones. But I'm not against that. This is just for fun.
Sure.
To illustrate something.
What was your
All right.
low? You had supplements at the bottom.
Yeah.
And you had it at...
I think I had it at 2 as well, but I had these...
okay. So sharper drop
a lot
off.
lower. Yeah. Yeah. From the top 3. Yeah. Yeah, but that's reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see a nice chart of that?
Let's see it.
All right. So that's kind of what you were looking at.
Okay.
This seems reasonable.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, so we've basically saved our impact scores so that they add up to 100 to kind of how important they are on longevity, health. So you remember that I talked about the longevity, like the benefit curves?
Yes.
So maybe I will show what I mean, and we can kind of talk about how I think it's a good way to think about what factors you should focus on modifying.
Mm-hmm.
If you can identify where you are on that curve.
Okay.
So I'm going to show what I'm calling an unscaled distribution for all of those different factors. So if we look at all of these, so each chart is like a theoretical, please, like this is totally theoretical, kind of based on the evidence and my prior knowledge and logic. Like it's not meant to be totally precise. It's just kind of more to show the shape of what I'm talking about here. So if we look just at this top left one, which is physical activity,
yep.
And on the left axis, the y-axis, we have the factor's impact on longevity. So if it's higher, it's better. You know, if it's lower, it's worse for longevity.
And then
on the
you have
the x
a little drop off when it's, I guess, too much working out.
Right. So yeah, and on the x-axis we have the amount or the quality. So yeah, for physical activity, it does seem that once you get past a certain point, it kind of starts to reduce your longevity.
Okay.
So you can imagine like that's like the person who's getting like really extreme in their workouts, and at some point it just it kind of backfires.
Where are you on this line?
So this is the kind of fun thing that I was thinking about. Like, I think it really helps figuring out where you are, because
sure, yeah,
I think I'm probably somewhere close to the peak in physical activity. I think there's certain things I could do a bit better. Maybe there's certain things I do a bit too much of, but I think overall I'm somewhere in this area. If I am critical of myself, I probably should do a bit more lower body stuff. So that's why I don't think I'm like total, peak.
Yeah.
But I think I'm pretty close.
And I'm guessing the 0 is somebody who's completely doesn't move from the couch.
Yeah, that's basically like they're almost inactive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like yeah, maybe there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean you still got some room to go, I think, with them.
Definitely.
Getting the good returns on that.
Definitely.
And these are all individual. So where are you on that curve?
Yeah. Kind of subjective.
It is, all of this is subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think I've captured the main ideas in that, for example, like for sleep, if you get too little sleep, it's worse for your longevity. But at the same time, if you get too much, it also can be bad for it.
Mm-hmm.
It can be just as bad as not getting enough.
Yeah.
And with alcohol, like I think there's up to a point, it's possibly slightly even better for longevity, but that's, who knows on that. But at some point, it does start to go down and reduce the benefits to longevity.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in the supplements as well, I think.
You think you can overdo it?
I think you can overdo it, and that's what I tried to capture. Just that, like, at some point you can just overload your system and like
try experimental.
take too much. At some point, you have to say, "Oh, I've got enough supplements." And more of the supplement is not better.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's clear with a lot of vitamins, especially fat soluble ones, that just more is not better. Enough is better. And a lot of these is kind of a linear relationship, but a lot of them is not linear. So like diet, I think if you have a really bad diet, increasing the quality of the diet is definitely very important. But once you get to a point, it really levels off. Like there's diminishing returns on that. Like for diet, I don't know where I am. Maybe, I don't know, somewhere around here or something. Like there's some more room, but I don't think I'm like at the peak or something.
Right, because I mean, some of it would be like not a very fun way to live.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to show was, so you know how we have the impact scores, like you're
going to adjust for that.
So I'm going to scale those distributions. So you'll just see, like, for example, like physical activity, if we had ranked that really low, the whole distribution would just collapse. And I think that's where it kind of gets interesting, where now you can look at, okay, supplements, like,
right,
there's the supplement curve,
right,
like,
gotcha.
How much of an impact can you actually get out of that? Like, maybe a little tiny bit, but not that much. Like, it's not this much,
right?
Like, it's this much. And I really think that is a good way to think of what things to focus on and what things to worry about.
Yeah.
It's just a nice reminder, I guess.
So basically, the one that we ranked the highest didn't change at all.
Theoretically, yes. This one would be the full height of the curve.
Yeah, it's cool.
But like, if we look at nutrition and diet, this curve has flattened out compared to this one.
Yeah.
Because we ranked it lower. Yeah.
And the supplements which we ranked the last is almost a straight line.
Yeah. Like there's some point in there where it might give you like a little boost, but it's really getting the last like percent or something.
Yeah. Cool.
But of course, all of this is interdependent, highly correlated. Like if there's a supplement that makes me sleep better, that, yeah. But I just wanted to get some nice visual representation of how I've been thinking about these, relationships between what you do and its impact on physical activity. Its impact on longevity. I mean, one of the factors is how easy you can modify these things.
Yeah.
Supplements, at least for me, is easy to change. I just take a pill. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not going to change my genetics. Environments, can be changed, but it also
So,
can be pretty difficult.
yeah.
Depends. Same with healthcare. Like, it can be changed, but it's really it can be difficult as well. Yeah.
I guess the bottom line should be the top 3 things you can do to impact your longevity is, first of all, not smoke, which
That's clear.
should be fairly straightforward to just not do. The second thing is just eat a little bit better and then do a little bit of exercise, and you'd have maybe 50% of the way there.
Yeah, people get caught up on the little details that probably don't have any impact.
Yeah.
Or if they do, it's totally unclear.
Like, I don't want to say they're the easiest, but they're definitely doable for most people.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I think if I had to do this all over again, maybe I would remove some of the factors, kind of group them in larger categories.
Because it's kind of important to, like, one way to do this would be to remove everything that there's no way you can change.
Right. Like, definitely genetics.
Right. And then you'd have a little bit of a different distribution. Like, the
right.
curves would look a bit different.
Yeah. And if I could, I just hacked this together in a couple of days. But, like, if the user could remove things that they don't want to change, just let's remove environment because I'm not going to change that.
Right, I'm not going to move.
Yeah. So then we can look more, what should I focus on? Oh, it's still physical activity.
You could make it I didn't know you were going to do this. It just thought...
I didn't either. It just kind of, I don't know. It just kind of came together. I was like, how can first I thought, how can I just easily, drag and drop some ranking items? I was like, I'll just make a simple Python web app. And then I thought about and I thought maybe I should...
At least 10 different ways you could have done that without a Python web app.
I know, but then I thought about the benefit score curves.
Okay.
And that was something I needed to make in Python. And I thought I could integrate that with, putting the actual amounts, like, out of 100 for each factor to scale it. Because I thought scaling, the more I thought about it, I thought the scaling part was the more interesting part of it.
Yeah.
Because if you just look at the unscaled curves, like, you think it has a much larger impact than it actually does in reality.
Right.
So, and I think this was at least for me, it made things a bit more clear.
Yeah.
And it was fun to put it together.
Yeah, it was definitely fun to see as well.